Hey everybody, welcome back to Shock and Schlock. I'm your host Herschel Gillis, and today I am sitting down here with director Addison Binek. He is the creator of films such as Psycho Ape and the recent Magnum Opus. Addison, how are you doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. Thanks for being here. Sort of want to kick things off here. How would you describe Magnum Opus in your own words here?
Well, it's I guess a nostalgic trip down memory lane for me, but it's also an homage to Jackass, Tom Green, and early 2000s MTV programming. Uh,
Hmm.
that really shaped you know um, my sense of humor and what I like to watch because I was growing up in that time frame. So, when I was 10, 11, unsupervised with a video camera, of course, my friends and I would go out and, not necessarily reenact, what we saw on TV, but we just kind of tried to do our own stunts and skits and stuff like that. And even though, Magnum Opus is not nearly as gnarly as anything on Jackass, but, we were kids when we did this stuff. So, we were just trying to make each other laugh, really. So I hope that the audience feels that they were entertained and that they got to laugh along with us.
Definitely. And what would you say sort of led to the development of this? Like coming back, finding these videos, compiling them into sort of this project. It's definitely like a big step away from stuff that you've done previously that's been
Mhm.
released more widespread. So what would you say was like the biggest driving factor for choosing this as your next project?
Well, last summer, I it was kind of a series of things where in June, I had gotten shingles, and I got them right in my eye. And I used to wear contacts, but now I'm a full time glasses wearer because they really messed up my cornea, and so I can't wear contacts in my eye now for any longer than like a half hour. It gets too irritated. So I spent like all of June dealing with half my face, with blisters and pain and stuff. And then as that cleared up, I got COVID in July. So I didn't work for 2 months. Um, I went from one extreme to another. And so I kind of was just in a really bad place mentally, like I needed something to lift my spirits.
Hmm.
So I went and dug into my archives and started piecing together all of this old footage that I have. I mean, some of it has been on YouTube already in like various pieces, but never together as a whole like this. And I took some pre-existing videos and sort of just slimmed them down, cut them up into more, digestible little bits and stuck them in Magnum Opus. I think I originally started with like a 2.5 hour block, like just tons of stuff on my Final Cut Pro timeline. And I just started chopping it down. I put everything in chronological order, the best that I can remember it. Um, and just sort of laid it all out as, this is stuff that makes me happy to watch and entertains me. It's me and my friends. And it's just something that I needed at that time. I needed to
Hmm.
revisit this stuff. And I wanted to put out a new project. I wanted to put out a new movie because it's like, well, you know, I just got over shingles. I just got over COVID. I can't really do any like movies to watch on a rainy afternoon episodes. I don't want to be on camera right now.
Hmm.
Um, and I didn't really have any funds, to go out and make a movie. So I reverted back to like, well, what's pre-existing? What's something that I can piece together and make something old new? And so that's what I did is I took all this old footage and I flipped it into, Magnum Opus, the movie. And like I said, some of this had already been on YouTube before, but not in a 60-minute long you know film format. And I strategically tried to make it shorter than my movie Psycho Ape because that's a 64-minute long thing. So I
Hmm.
thought like, well, Magnum Opus is essentially plotless, and there's lots of footage to choose from, but I don't want to make like a 90-minute thing out of this. So I went back and forth with my buddy James, uh, putting things in, taking things out, sending various cuts to people to see like what they responded to, what they didn't respond to. And I think we came to just, an agreeable 63-minute long thing. I think the final number is like there's like 65 skits in a 63-minute long project because some of these skits are very quick.
Hmm.
And, that's the way I just wanted to present them. I didn't want to linger on something for too long. Like one of the longer skits is the mace. That was originally like a 9-minute video, but I shrunk it down to about 3.5 because I thought that, something like that doesn't need to be 9 minutes. It Let's just, cut to the chase, get to the point. And I think it's just, a 3.5 minute long little skit, right in the middle of the movie. And then there's, 10-second skits of people like leaping over chairs and falling and eating shit, or, you
Hmm.
know, just little transition bits that um, come in, do their thing, and then you're out. And so you're just kind of bombarded with a ton of little segments, and I think that makes it more fun.
Yeah, definitely. And clearly, this is quite a bit different, as I mentioned, from your previous efforts. So, sort of, what were the biggest challenges and I would say like advantages? What was easier in this compared to previous, and what was more difficult?
Well, definitely easier to edit because I mean I didn't have to shoot anything. This was all just pre-existing stuff. I went through tons of hard drives, went through YouTube, and was just extracting stuff from YouTube off my own YouTube channel and my friend's YouTube channel, and it was kind of more fun than actually like making a movie because that requires scheduling, that requires like, hey, can you get this weekend off so we can go film this, or it requires spending money to rent out a location to shoot. This was all just, let me get everything that I have that could sort of fit the theme of what Magnum Opus is. It's, I want this to be an homage to Jackass, I want this to be an homage to Tom Green style stuff. So I just kind of pulled from everything and um just edited everything together. So, that was just the fun part of sort of figuring out, is that, movie material, or should I save that for the Blu-ray bonus features or something? Which I
Hmm.
think that there's some bonus features stuff in our maybe pile section that is still fun. Like it's still good, but I didn't want the movie to overstay its welcome. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, you can watch the 63-minute movie, but then there's 37 more minutes of archival material
Yeah,
that you can
definitely.
pick from.
Hmm.
Some of that stuff in the maybe pile had never been edited before. It had been pulled from, like, we went through 40 something mini DV tapes that we had in our library still, and my buddy James, he actually took the time to upload some of that stuff using old school adapters and firewire cables to his Mac, and some of that stuff had never been uploaded from a tape before. So seeing that footage for the first time after 15 years was kind of, astonishing, because it was like, oh wow, I kind of remember doing this, but not really. It's
Hmm.
kind of interesting that it's on film, because some of this stuff dates back to 2007, and we cut it for the first time as features. Um, and I guess the challenge was seeing if anybody would give a crap, really. That was kind of the thing, was because it's not a riffing project like Masterpiece Theater or Movies to Watch on a Rainy Afternoon, and because it's not, a horror comedy spoof like Psycho Ape, I was sort of unsure if anybody would want to watch it.
Hmm.
And, as of this recording, I think I'm up to 74 sales, which is pretty good. I just shipped out a box of 5 copies to a bookstore in Tennessee. They ordered some copies that they're gonna, flip in their little bookstore. So that's kind of cool. Um, but yeah, it just, I wasn't sure if anybody would care. And the trouble I've been having is getting it booked in theaters. Like theaters don't really want to play it, and I understand. It's very niche, it's experimental, but it's my homage to Jackass, but it's also, meaningful to me because it's memories of me and my friends doing stupid crap after school, when we
Mhm.
were kids.
So, what would you say has been your favorite part about all of this? I know that it comes with its own set of challenges, but I'm sure getting back with, childhood friends and everything and collaborating this has a lot of advantages there as well. I mean, when I watched it, I got sort of secondhand nostalgia, so I can definitely tell that this was like a very personal project.
Yeah.
So what would you say is like your favorite thing that's come out of all of this?
I guess just see people seeing the footage and reacting to it because, you know, when we were filming this stuff 15, 20 years ago, it was for us. It was for my group of, 6, 7 friends. And we would just sort of either hook up the camera to the television and watch it and then forget about it, like, oh, that was funny to do that one day, or with some of this other material, it just got archived forever and never released until now. So it's been interesting that people they still have reactions to some of the bits. And that is fascinating to me. That's something that we filmed in 2006, 2007, um, still gets strong reactions from people. Like, my stapling bits still seem to make
Hmm.
people cringe, which is interesting, because I'm so detached from that footage. That was half my life ago. So I it's nothing to me, I did it. So to hear that it still makes people cringe or freak them out, that's crazy. Or like our buddy Scotty, who gets water sprayed up his nose. People were saying that it makes their tears or their eyes water. They
Hmm.
start to tear up and everything, and that didn't happen when I was filming it, but you can hear me sort of gagging like
Hmm.
while we were shooting because when he blows his nose, it was just all like watery and mucusy, and there was some blood in the tissue, and it's pretty crazy. But there's something about like when you're filming crazy stuff like that, you're looking at it through the viewfinder. You're not actually seeing it happening in real life,
Hmm.
so you kind of have this like disconnect from like reality of like you're kind of already watching the movie on the camera when you're shooting it. So I don't know. It's kind of this weird, like you're not really you're disassociated from what the act that you're filming
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
person. So um, some of that stuff, because we did it, it wasn't that wild or crazy to me at the time. So for people to be watching it now and having wild and crazy reactions is kind of nuts. Or like um, when my friend Bridget eats the sand from Myrtle Beach, I didn't have much of a reaction to it filming it at the time, and that was 2013. So we're almost 10 years, removed from that bit. But watching it now turns my stomach, and that's
Hmm.
that's that's really interesting to me because when I was like editing the footage and getting these bits in order, I couldn't watch the sand bit, and I was like, wow, 10 years ago when I filmed this, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. She doesn't think it's that big of a deal. But when people were messaging me saying that, like, the sand scene, they were calling it like beach nachos, that was making them sick or queasy, or saying that it's like just as gross as anything that Jackass ever did, that's quite an accomplishment.
Hmm.
Because I feel like, we have a couple of what I call like showstoppers in the thing. And like that's one of them. Beach nachos is one of them. Stapling the webbing of my finger is another one. And then the nose. Those are like the three I think most shocking. It's really up to the audience, like whatever else affects them the most. But I think those three are like our big showstopper moments. Like any
Hmm.
Jackass movie always has like something in it, like halfway through or something, that's like the big showstopper of the film. Um, And for me, like in Jackass the movie, the paper cuts is kind of the most gnarly thing.
Hmm.
And so I kind of wanted to emulate something like that. So that's why the webbing of my hand, I was like, well, I need to do something crazy like that. If they're paper cutting the webbing of their hand, then I'm gonna staple the webbing of my hand. Like, let's do something crazy. And I didn't feel it when it went through my hand. There was no, I didn't, there's really no like nerve endings or anything right in that area. But getting it out was the tough part because I didn't anticipate the prongs to close.
Hmm.
So when you're picking at it with, a pair of tweezers and, you know, you just, the adrenaline is what made the tweezers keep slipping off of the metal prongs. That's why I was having such a hard time getting it out, was because the adrenaline, my hands were just shaking.
Hmm.
I couldn't get it out. So that moment is my homage to the paper cuts and Jackass the movie, and then like there's always some gross out scene in a Jackass thing, like in the show Dave England eats all of the ingredients for an omelet and then vomits all that back up into a frying pan and eats that, and
Hmm.
it's like we don't have anything like that, but
Yeah.
we do have someone eats sand, and that's
Hmm.
nasty, like Myrtle Beach sand. Like I'm sure if you look at the close up of the sand on the ground, there's like a cigarette butt, there's
Hmm.
bugs. It's pretty
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah.
This is
Hmm.
not a clean beach. So, that's why I think that scene tends to get some reactions out of it. And so, but it's not just about like how shocking the movie is or how gross the movie is. It's genuinely like just about something fun, like here's something fun for an audience to watch. It's a bunch of stupid teenagers doing stupid teenage things. And, I don't know if teenagers still do stuff like this. I feel like they probably don't because everybody's just obsessed with selfies and TikTok and everybody's
Hmm.
on their cell phone all the time. So there's really no like, hey, grab your camera, let's go like jump off a roof or something.
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't know if that's like still a thing. So it's kind of a time capsule for the mid 2000s for kids who, loved Jackass and loved, stunt stuff with their friends, making their friends laugh, being an idiot on the street, because I also
Hmm.
love Tom Green. And some of those skits that are featured in Magnum Opus were shot at a time where I had just met Tom Green and I was very like riding high from having met him.
Hmm.
And I filmed the first pug video in the movie of, do you like green beans, and messing with him and putting the cheese on my face. That first pug video was like a week or two after having just met like one of my comedy idols. So like that came directly from just like, holy crap, like I gotta film something Tom Green esque.
Hmm. Yeah. Between everything that you mentioned, I know you mentioned several clips here too. As a viewer and other people I've spoken to that have watched this, we all have sort of like a favorite segment. What would you
Yeah.
say your favorite segment, or maybe a few, like a handful that you look back on and sort of think like those are the best that are here?
Well, there's definitely some that I'm most like nostalgic about that really like make me happy that they're on Blu-ray. I mean, not because they're like the gnarliest things in the world, but I really enjoy like really like the opening scene, like the first skit of me and my buddy Jonathan just jumping off of like slides and play structures at our
Hmm.
old elementary school. Because I mean, that's really the first documented footage, I think, of anything of me. Like I don't think there's anything. I don't own like all my home movies are gone. Like those VHS tapes from Disneyland, like those don't
Hmm.
exist anymore. So I'm pretty sure that me and my buddy John leaping off of slides and play structures at our school when we were like, I don't know, 11, 12. That's like the first documented thing of like me on tape. And so to put it in a movie and to like have it on Blu-ray and stuff, it's kind of incredible. So that one really like holds a deep place in my heart. Plus, I love the song "I'm Not a Juvenile Delinquent." I jacked that from Pink Flamingos. Pink Flamingos, John Waters. That was a huge influence for me. In my teen years.
Hmm.
So to sort of have that song, to you know, to use that as kind of like our theme song for Magnum Opus, like to marry that song to that footage is like that means a lot to me. Um, I mean, it's hard to pick out like favorite stuff. I guess the Superman thing as well. Like when I leap
Hmm.
off the garage and fall right on my ass.
Hmm.
That one really did hurt. Like the the hand stapling did not hurt, but jumping off the roof, I couldn't sit right for like 2 weeks after that. Like that sucked. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
because initially I did it the first time, but I landed right on my feet. Like we didn't use that footage because it was like, well, that didn't work. Nothing funny happened.
Yeah.
The second time I just jumped, but I didn't anticipate to fall that way. Um, so I think I also have like a nostalgic memory attached to that one where the next day I brought the tape to school and I popped it into a VCR in the school library. And, that doesn't just play on one television in the school library. It plays on like all the televisions in the school library. And they have like, six in there, or something like that. So all of a sudden, me jumping off a roof as Superman and landing on my ass and screaming in pain, that's broadcasting on like six different TVs in the library.
Hmm.
So the librarian came over and, shut off the VCR and, you know, took the tape from me. But, luckily I was able to retrieve it and use it, digitize it all these years later. But showing that footage to a group of people, just other classmates in high school, like that was a lot of fun. And so for it to now be on Blu-ray and for complete strangers to like buy copies of it and have that be in their home, that's even wilder.
Hmm. For sure.
And yeah, I also really like the dog food at the end.
Oh yeah.
We just randomly
Hmm.
filmed that. Like we went to the beach and different beach. It was in Michigan, and it was just a random like we wanted to one up the sand, but I mean I don't know. I don't know if the dog food is grosser than the sand. I mean, I would think it is, but she said the sand was worse.
Hmm. Yeah.
I guess also we don't say it in the movie, but it's her wedding that I eat the flower at.
Hmm.
I was the flower boy at her wedding. Her flower girl got sick and couldn't make it, so I had made a joke like, okay, if you can't find a replacement flower girl, I'll be your flower boy. But I spelled it, Flour. And I
Hmm.
said, just provide me with a bag of flour and I'll eat it walking down the aisle. And so when I showed up to her wedding that day, she handed me a bag of flour and a wooden spoon and was like, okay, flower boy, like, put your money where your mouth is. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay. At that point, I had already filmed her eating the sand, eating the dog food. So it's like, okay, all right, it's my turn to eat something gross and to do something funny and shocking at her wedding. So it wasn't really that planned. Her family and friends had no idea. Like the groomsmen knew and the bridesmaids knew, but all the guests, that's their natural reaction. Even like the you know the wedding photographer, he's filming me and you can hear them kind of like making comments in the background and stuff. They had no idea what I was about to do. So when I was putting Magnum Opus together, I had sent Bridget a cut. I was like, hey, I'm putting your sand footage and your dog food footage in this movie. You know, People are going to see this now, for the first time. And she was like, "Oh, hey, do you want that, flower footage from my wedding? I can get it to you." So she still had the files from her wedding from like 4 or 5 years ago, and she sent me the footage, and I cut it together and stuck it in the movie. So that had never been seen by anybody other than her and her
Hmm.
husband because it was for her wedding video. So that's kind of cool.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And sort of closing out here, the Blu-ray is great, obviously. Where can we purchase this for anybody watching? Where can we find you? Your other projects, all of that.
I've got copies available on eBay. Um, it's not streaming anywhere at the moment, just because I don't think anybody would take it. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
um, I'm just, Blu-rays for now. But if people contact me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I'm on all of those. I've been selling digital copies to people. Like, if you hit me up, I can send you a link and you can stream it and download it from like the personal link that I provide. And I've only been charging $10 for that, and I've gotten 3 bites so far. So if you're not a physical media collector, I can send you a link for $10 and you can stream it and download it forever. It's yours.
Mhm.
Yeah, all my other stuff is available on eBay as well. I prefer the physical media stuff, but kind of seems like maybe it's a dying format, and it kind of sucks because we worked really
Unfortunately.
hard
Mhm.
to stack the Blu-ray with all these bonus features. I mean, it's 37 minutes of additional footage. There's 20 more scenes that didn't make the cut, because not because they're like not good, but just we didn't want to make a 100-minute long movie. I take copies to conventions. I show the movie at screenings, and so I just kind of thought, as like an audience member, this might only be something that I only want to spend like 60 minutes, looking at. I don't want a 90-minute version. I don't want people to get antsy or anything like that. So if you buy the Blu-ray, if you like what you saw in the movie, well then check out, our maybe pile, because then there's more stuff in there. Um, and what's crazy is that there's even more footage, that we just didn't extract from tapes or didn't include on the Blu-ray because it was a lot of material, 40 mini DV tapes. That's a lot to go through. And we didn't want to take 6 months, putting this thing together. I thought that what we have is good. And if we sell enough copies, maybe further on down the line, have like a little bonus film or something like that, where it's kind of just more additional scenes, more additional things, um, stuff that we just didn't know if people would even be attracted to this. And so now that it seems like people kind of dig this, it might be worth revisiting later on down the line.
Definitely. And I'm definitely going to leave a link to the Blu-ray here, all your socials. For everybody watching, hit up Addison for that. And Addison, thanks again for sitting down today. Magnum Opus is great. Highly recommend everybody watch that hasn't already. So yeah, thanks again.
True, man.